I am 87 years old, and I am holding a photograph right now that weighs more than anything I ever carried in my life. It's just a simple frame, cheap wood, the kind you'd buy at a drugstore for $1.99, back when things cost what they were worth. The glass has got fingerprint smudges all over it because I pick this thing up every single morning. Every morning. Like some kind of ritual I can't stop. The photo inside is faded. The colors have gone soft, the way colors do when decades get their hands on them. There's me, younger, standing stiff as a board. There's my wife, Margaret, beautiful as the day I married her. And there's my son, Michael. He must have been about 9 in this picture. Little suit. Hair combed to the side, not smiling. I never noticed that before, not until it was too late. That boy wasn't smiling, but the picture isn't what kills me. Turn this frame over, and there's a note on the back. I wrote it myself, years ago, in blue ink that's gone shaky because my hands were shaking when I wrote it. 3 words and a question mark. Love, Dad? That question mark, that single little curve of ink, it's the loudest thing in this house. Louder than the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Louder than the silence that fills every room from floor to ceiling. I was married 65 years, built a house with my own hands, raised a son, provided for a family, and I never once, not one single time, heard that boy tell me he loved me. Not once. And you want to know the worst part? I never said it to him first. Not once either. Don't you dare make my mistake. See, I need you to understand where I came from. Because a man doesn't become this broken by accident. It's built, brick by brick, generation by generation. I grew up in the 1940s and 50s. My father was a steel worker in Pittsburgh. Hands like catcher's mitts, knuckles permanently black from the mill. That man put food on our table every night for 30 years, and I never once saw him hug my mother. Not once. Love in our house wasn't something you said. It was something you proved. You proved it by showing up. You proved it by not drinking your paycheck away like the other men on our street. You proved it by keeping the lights on and the roof patched and the kids fed. That was love. That was the whole language of it, beginning and end. So when I married Margaret in 1958, I carried that same dictionary into our home. I got a job at the plant. I worked doubles, sometimes triples when they'd let me. I'd come home smelling like motor oil and sweat, boots caked with mud, and I'd set my lunch pail on the counter next to a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago, because Margaret always poured it when she expected me home, and I was never home when she expected me. I missed things. I know that now. Michael had a school play when he was 7. He was a tree. A tree. He had one line, something about the seasons changing. I wasn't there. I was pulling overtime because the furnace at the plant needed tending, and I told myself, he's a tree, he'll be a tree again next year. He wasn't. They did a different play the next year. I missed that one too. I miss baseball games. I miss parent-teacher nights. I miss the sound of his voice reading out loud from books he was proud of. I miss bedtime. God, I missed bedtime almost every night. Margaret would handle all of that. She was the warmth. She was the words. She'd tell him, "Your daddy loves you, you know that." And I figured that covered it. I figured she was saying it for both of us. like some kind of ambassador for my heart. She'd whisper to me sometimes, late at night, when we were lying in the dark and the house was quiet. "Talk to your boy, Walter. He needs to hear it from you." And I'd roll over and mumble something like, "He knows, Marge, the boy knows." I said that so many times it became true in my head. He knows. He has to know. Look at this house. Look at this life I'm building. Look at these hands, cracked and bleeding for him. How could he not know? That was a lie. That was a lie I told myself for over 50 years. A man shows love through sacrifice, not sentences, actions, not words, providing, not saying. And I believed it the way you believe the sun will come up. I never questioned it, not once. And now I sit in this kitchen, at this same table, eating soup from a can because Margaret is gone and I never learned to cook. The chair across from me is empty. It's been empty so long there's dust on the seat. And the silence in this room is so thick I can feel it pressing against my chest like a hand. Now let me tell you about the day everything shattered. I need you to hear this part. I need you to hear every detail because this is the moment that rewrote my entire life. And I replay it in my head every single night before I fall asleep. And every single morning before I open my eyes. Thanksgiving, 2014. I was 78 years old. Margaret had been after me for months. Years, really. But that fall, she got serious about it. She said, "Walter, you are running out of time. You need to talk to your son. Really talk to him." She had this look on her face. This look like she could see something coming that I couldn't. Maybe she could. Women see things men are too stubborn to notice. So I prepared. I actually prepared. I took that photograph off the mantelpiece, this very one I'm holding now. And I sat at the kitchen table one night when Margaret was asleep, and I turned it over and I picked up a pen, and I tried to write something. My hand was trembling, not from age, from fear. 87 years old now, and I can tell you, I've never been more afraid of anything in my life than I was of that blank space on the back of a photograph. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have the vocabulary. My father never gave it to me, and I never built it on my own. So I wrote the only thing I could manage. "Love, Dad?" And I put a question mark because honestly, even I wasn't sure anymore. Was it love? Was what I gave that boy actually love? Or was it just duty wearing a mask? Thanksgiving Day, the house smelled like heaven and heartbreak all at once. Margaret had been cooking since 5 in the morning. Roasted turkey, cinnamon candles on the dining room table. That sweet, heavy smell of stuffing and gravy and brown sugar on the yams. The dining room looked beautiful. She'd put out the good china, the stuff we only use twice a year. White tablecloth, iron so sharp you could cut yourself on the creases. Michael came. He was 56 years old by then, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes. He looked so much like me it hurt. He brought a bottle of wine and a handshake. A handshake. From my own son. Not a hug. A handshake. And I took it because that's what we did. That's what we always did. Dinner was polite. That's the word. Polite. We talked about the weather. We talked about football. We talked about nothing. Margaret kept trying to steer us towards something real, something with roots. But every time she did, Michael and I would both retreat to safe ground, like soldiers afraid of open terrain. After dessert, Margaret gave me a look. The one that said, Now or never, Walter. My hands were shaking when I reached into the cabinet behind me where I'd hidden the photograph. I set it on the tablecloth and slid it across to Michael. Face up first. He looked at it, looked at that little boy in the suit who wasn't smiling. Then I said, "Turn it over." The room got so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I could hear the candle flames bending in the air. I could hear my own blood moving through my veins. Michael turned the frame over and looked at those 3 words and that question mark. "Love, Dad?" He stared at it. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. I counted every one of them because each one felt like a year being peeled off my life. A fork was resting on the edge of his plate, and it slipped and clinked against the porcelain, and we both flinched like it was a gunshot. Then Michael looked up at me, and his eyes, I'll never forget his eyes. They weren't angry. That would have been easier. They were empty, tired, like a man who stopped waiting for something a long, long time ago. He said, quietly, almost a whisper, "You never said it first, Dad, not once." That's all he said. 7 words, and each one hit me like a freight train because every single one of them was true. Then he stood up. He folded his napkin and set it beside his plate, neat and precise, the way I taught him to do everything, properly, efficiently, without mess, without emotion. He took his coat off the back of the chair. He walked to the front door, and the door closed behind him. Not a slam. A slam I could have handled. A slam has anger in it, and anger means someone still cares. No. It was a click, a soft, ordinary click. The kind of sound a door makes when someone is done. I sat there at that table for 2 hours. The turkey went cold. The gravy formed a skin. The pumpkin pie sat there untouched, sweating in the candlelight. Margaret came and put her hand on my shoulder, and I felt her crying through her fingertips, but I couldn't move. I just stared at that photograph lying face down on the white tablecloth, and I thought, I had 50 years. I had 50 years to say 3 words, and I couldn't do it. That was the last Thanksgiving Michael came to. Margaret passed 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Quick and cruel the way that disease works. She went in the spring, when the trees outside our bedroom window were just starting to bud, and I remember thinking how wrong it was that the world was coming alive while she was leaving it. She was the bridge between me and Michael. She was the translator. She spoke his language and mine, and she carried love back and forth between us like a mail carrier who never took a day off. When she died, the mail stopped. Now it's just me in this house and this photograph. I pass it every morning on my way to the kitchen. It sits on the mantelpiece like a little monument to everything I got wrong. Some mornings I pick it up. Some mornings I just look at it. But every morning, every single morning, that question mark on the back digs a little deeper into whatever is left of my chest. Michael calls on my birthday. He calls on Christmas. 15 seconds, maybe 20. "How are you, Dad?" "Fine." "Need anything?" "No." "All right then." Click. There's that click again. Always a click. Never a crash. Never anything that would give me something to push against. I sit in my recliner most days. The leather is cracked and worn and shaped exactly to my body because nobody else ever sits in it. The house smells like dust and old wood and something faintly sour that I can't identify. Maybe loneliness has a smell, and I've just gone nose blind to it. The clock in the hallway ticks and ticks and ticks, and I swear it's getting louder every year, like it's reminding me how little time I have left to fix something I probably can't fix. I tried to write him a letter once, 6 months ago. I sat at the kitchen table with a pen and a blank piece of paper, and I stared at it for 45 minutes. I got as far as "Dear Michael," and then the pen just stopped. It sat there on the paper the same way love always sat on my tongue. Frozen, permanent, useless. I couldn't move the ink the same way I couldn't move the words. Some things calcify inside you when you wait too long, and no amount of wanting can break them free. Now I want you to listen to me. You, right now. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing while you hear this. When is the last time you told your child you love them? And I don't mean when is the last time you assumed they knew. I mean, when is the last time you opened your mouth and pushed the air out of your lungs and shaped it into those 3 words and made sure they heard it? When is the last time you told your father, your mother, your brother who you haven't called in 6 months because you're both too proud and too stupid to pick up the phone? Let me guess, you're too busy. You'll do it later. They already know. You're not the type. You show love differently. I have heard every excuse because I invented most of them. You want to know what too busy gets you? It gets you an 87-year-old man eating canned soup alone in a kitchen built for a family. You want to know what they already know gets you? It gets you a son who walks out on Thanksgiving and closes the door with a click that echoes for the rest of your life. I had 22,000 days with my son under my roof. 22,000 mornings where he was right there, right down the hall, breathing, alive, waiting. That's 22,000 chances to say I love you. I took 0, not 1. And now I would give every single thing I own, this house, this chair, every breath I have left, to go back and take just one of them. But I can't. That's not how time works. Time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your plans or your pride or your excuses. It just moves. And one day you turn around and 50 years have passed, and all you're holding is a photograph with a question mark that nobody is ever going to answer. So I'm telling you this from the other side of a mistake you can still avoid. Say it now. Say it today. Say it ugly. Say it with a shaking voice and tears running down your face and snot on your lip, I don't care. Say it scared. Say it angry. Say it in a whisper or a scream. But say it. Before the silence becomes the only thing they remember about you. Put this down. Pick up the phone. Go find them. And say it first. Don't wait for the question mark.